even if you don't like math, numbers are everywhere, and it definitely will give you a new perspective on that. Hello! I was not planning on filming a video today, but I finished an audiobook and felt like I immediately needed to sit down and talk about it, so here we are. I just finished The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yōko Ogawa, and oh my goodness, easiest 5 stars of my life. I finished it about an hour ago. I sat with it, I cried about it, and I want to talk about it. So the story follows a woman who is a housekeeper. She's a single mom, and she starts working for this man who is a math professor. The thing about this professor is that he has memory loss. He can only remember for periods of 80 minutes, and then he forgets everything. And then he still has his memories from before his brain injury, which happened about 20, 30 years prior. It's set in the 90s in Japan. And this book was so beautiful, which is so funny to say when one of the main themes is math, but there's also these amazing elements of found family and the bond that these people create, even though this mother and her son have to reintroduce themselves every day. It was just so beautiful and endearing, and it's one of those books that feels quiet and mundane, but in the best way possible. I'm obsessed! The professor finds out that this housekeeper has a son one day, and he insists on her bringing him. He's like, no 10-year-old should be left alone. Like, you have to bring him to work with you. And once he meets him, his bond with this boy is so special. First of all, he calls him root for square root because his head reminds him of a square root symbol, which I think is adorable. And they just create this connection. A lot of it is based on math. The boy will have the professor help him with his math homework, and the professor will give him extra questions and problems and talk about math and theory in beautiful ways. And then they also have this really interesting relationship together about baseball. The boy is obsessed with baseball. He likes to play it, he likes to watch it, he likes to listen to it, while the professor, years ago when he had his normal memory, was obsessed with baseball because of the numbers. Baseball is a very number heavy game if you don't know a whole lot about baseball. Like, the stats you can go into with baseball are truly insane. And so the professor loves it from that point of view. He knows this all the numbers you can imagine in baseball. He's got them in his noggin. And so they have that really special bond as well. And even though this woman and her son have to reintroduce themselves every day, the bond they create with this man is so special and beautiful. And it's so sweet. It's just very sweet. And the other thing I loved about this book, so fun fact about Kenny, is I used to be obsessed with math in terms of the history of math and how the theorems and equations we use for simple things today kind of came about, because in high school I was convinced students would learn better if they knew the history of math, and why the equations we use today were created. Like, what was the context? How did someone come up with that? Why does that mean that? All that sort of stuff. And there's this book I was obsessed with about the history of zero. I think it's just called The History of Zero. I will double check for you guys. And it's just about zero. And it was fascinating. And so I don't know, I work a little bit with numbers with my job, but nothing crazy. And so reading or listening to this book where this man is talking so lovingly about numbers and concepts and how special prime numbers are and amicable numbers and all these things, just, it warmed my heart. I loved every component of this book. It's a very short book. It's 180 pages, so I don't want to get too into details because that's easily spoiler territory. But if you want a book that feels a little more quiet and a little more day-to-day life, which sometimes you need, and you're trying to read more translated literature, I highly recommend this. It's beautiful, it's sweet, it might make you cry. There were a few points that made me cry just because it was so endearing and I just wanted to give the characters a hug. They're also special and unique, and the care they have for each other, even in this very odd sort of situation and relationship, is so wonderful. And the audiobook was great. I have seen a few people with the book, and when they're talking about math in the book, it's all written out, and it looks a little bit overwhelming, I won't lie. But when you listen to it, the way they speak the equations out loud and the problems they're talking about, I feel like was a little more digestible if you're not a huge math fan. And also the audiobook's about 4 hours, super easy. But I hope you read it. I will definitely be getting a physical copy because I will most likely reread it again and again, like I love to do with my shorter sort of philosophical books, like The Cat Who Saved Books behind me. That's one of my favorites. But anyways, I hope you guys have a lovely day. Sorry this was so ranty and rambly, but that's all I got.